Hi, thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. My name is Andrea Clem, and this week on Turn to the Stars, I'm going to be talking about the month of February of 2014, and especially about the full moon in Leo on Valentine's Day this year. And it is truly it's going to really intensify the areas of our heart and raising our awareness to listen to our hearts. And so going to talk a lot about that, but I'm going to also talk about some other things, some other major planetary configurations that are happening in the month of February. And we just did have a new moon that started on January 30th, and that theme of Aquarius energy, which is growing in all of our lives, meaning the friendships, the awareness of our goals, the unique, unusual interests, and even ideas that we're having. This energy is sort of what's growing, is really really important, because this is a month, February, that we are turning a corner. And since all of the changes that have occurred for all of us back with the solar eclipse back in November. So I do want to talk about, the sun in Aquarius does influence a uniting of community. It does influence us to look at new techniques, new ideas, our friendships, the camaraderie of relationships. It also reminds us that throughout this whole month, about the friendships that bond us together. And as you heard me talk about a couple of minutes ago, the new moon on January 30th did signify a very important turning point. And as we see the light of the moon each night grow just a little bit bigger, so do our experiences. And so this month, it is signifying a real shift in our consciousness, and that we are turning a corner in our lives, and with a grasp in our hands firmly, with an understanding and of the transitions, of the transformations that we experienced back in November. And really, February does hold a promise for new inspirations, for new ideas to grow. It offers avenues by which we can change our lives and create new directions following the guidance of our hearts. So every day, as the energy of that moon, the moon is the builder of form energetically, meaning it really influences the emotions and the building of those emotions. And as that moon moves through toward the constellation of Leo, which will be a full moon, presence of a full moon, it inspires to really listen to the voices of our hearts. And it reminds us that chivalry lives on. So I have a picture of the chart, the astrology chart of that full moon. And there it is on the screen right there. And you can see the red arrow is pointing up to that full moon. And it does indicate that there'll be a strong note of drama attached to our experiences leading up to this full moon. And that full moon certainly does influence emotional intensity, which we know full moons do. We should really make a big deal out of Valentine's this year. Everyone, make a big deal out of it, because Leo does encourage the drama and the dramatic and the beautiful to be expressed in the grandest ways possible. So my recommendation is to really applaud, compliment, and show appreciation for the ones you love on Valentine's Day. And this energy is encouraging us to work hard to achieve our goals. You can see that full moon there in Leo, and it it is a very vibrant energy, and it really does, as we grow with that energy of that emotion, we do really have this growing awareness of the importance of celebrating and making time to play and have fun, even though we have all these goals that we have set for ourselves that we're fully aware of right now. And, but also the energy of this full moon does inspire us to be honest with ourselves and with others. And where we have been, where we've been, this full moon does remind us also that where we've been, and there's solid reminders that we need to stay in touch with what our goals are and stay in touch with what is most important overall. So listen and remain open to the idea that we achieve more when we all work together, yet also at the same time reminded to honor our hearts and creative expressions. Now, in this chart, you can also see, if you look at where the arrow is pointing up to the symbol for the moon, and you look down to the very bottom of the chart, you can see a symbol which is Saturn. And Saturn is been in the constellation of Scorpio, and it's not speaking very nicely. There's not this harmonious energy between the sun and the moon showing up there. And so what we see is those lines in the middle, which we call aspects, squaring this full moon. And so what it tells us is that it's cautioning us that we are in the midst of uncloaking some hidden emotions, and old fears may find their way to be recognized. So our challenges will be to accept that categorically, one by one. It will be best to open up our minds and our eyes to look into different methods that will help to change or restructure these old fears or these old patterns. So this full moon in Leo does inspire courage and integrity. The sun, if we look to the right of the chart, you can see the circle with the dot in it, which is in Aquarius, inspires the whole and the wisdom that comes from hearing the whole. And Saturn in Scorpio, which we see at the bottom, tells us that there is more work to be done in uncovering the hidden mysteries that are so deeply ingrained within us. So it also reminds us that there are many different ways to do things, and that perhaps we need to consider that as long as our paths lead us to stay together, it's the right path. This full moon does also give us the ability to understand and transform or detox ourselves from our deeply ingrained ways. The energy of this full moon in Leo, again, February 14th, steadily reminds us to be aware that there is a rainbow ahead. Now, while I'm talking about this full moon, I want to share some information, some news of something that's happening at Turn to the Stars. On Sunday, February 16th and 23rd, I'm going to be teaching a 2-day intensive. These are 2 Sundays in a row in February. And they are, as you see on the screen, Introduction to Shamanic Practices and Journeying. It is a 2-day development class, and parents and their young adults are welcome. It is 2 Sundays in a row, February 16th and 23rd, and it's going to be at Just Breathe in Derry, New Hampshire, which is right at the Rotary, and it is from 10 to 4 p.m. each day. And these classes are shamanism. When a person practices shamanism, they make journeys to non-ordinary reality in an altered state of consciousness. This is what I'm going to be teaching the students in the class how to do. The practice of shamanism exists on all inhabited continents. It underlays all the other spiritual traditions on the planet and involves the journey to other worlds in this altered state of consciousness for purposes of accessing wisdom and healing. And I just want to cover some of the things that will be occurring during the class. it is a time for all of us on this planet truly to learn how to connect with our individual spiritual authorities and to find helpful tools such as shamanic practices that offer and provide solutions to our problems. So what I'm going to be teaching in this class is the history of core shamanic practices, the different worlds that the shamanic practitioner can travel. Going to discuss the shamanic journey and methods. Going to be viewing videography of shamanic practices. Going to teach the students and guide them through journeys and teach them how they can personally access these worlds, creating their own pathways in and out of these worlds. I'm going to teach the students how to meet their animal guides and spirit teachers whom they can develop ongoing relationships with, learn to track spirits. You will meet and communicate with the spirits of your ancestors and be guided through a journey that will open doors to past lives for understanding and healing of your present life, and also learn how you can help others and yourself through the practice of core shamanism. Now, again, this is February 16th and 23rd at Just Breathe in Derry. And for any further information on these, you can feel free to contact me at www.turntothestars.com or email Andrea@turntothestars. And it is really wrapped around the energy of the full moon in February. Full moon does bring things to light. It does intensify our emotions and our feelings and our subconscious. So it's a great time for such a class and to be tapping into that different state of our human consciousness. So going back to talking about the full moon, the full moon, as you saw in the chart, it does show that we have there's this fixed T-square, which is occurring between the sun and Saturn and the full moon. And what it does is it reminds us that it can be hard to change old patterns, and that it really will take a concentration to make adjustments of our wills and to choose to do what is best for the whole. So, it's interesting because fixed T-squares really do talk to us about old patterns, old ways of doing things. And Saturn in Scorpio sort of does, human beings, when they experience difficult things, tend to sort of wrap a cloak around it and find ways to make things feel better. So this full moon is really going to bring to our awareness some things that we've buried. And the light of the sun, being in Aquarius, does shine down on us every day throughout the month of February, right to about I believe it's the 18th or the 19th. And it reminds us that we are a part of the whole. We are a part of humanity. And it reminds us that we are also independent and that we need to listen to our ideas and our inspirations and to our friends and our intuitions of guidance. The sun in Aquarius encourages us to think outside the box. And it does tell us, its energy as it moves through this constellation does indicate that we will be having these inspirations and innovative ideas that will be guiding us to make important changes in our lives. And as this emotional intensity of that full moon continues to develop every day, getting close to the 14th, day by day, we're going to be feeling that there's this sense of unitedness that we're seeing happen among our families, among the groups that we are members of, communities, and our organizations. Mars is in the constellation of Libra, and it is going to be on this full moon conjoined with a north node trining the Sun and Mercury, and it is sextiling this full moon, which does open doors for unity and for many good things to take actively to take place. So the full moon really does show a picture up in our skies of planetary peace between Mars, the Sun, Mercury, and Moon. And Mars in Libra guides us to actively seek peace and harmony in relationships, and the Sun and Mercury in Aquarius guides us toward doing what is best for everyone. And the full moon in Leo influences people to follow the guidance of their hearts and to have the courage to let go of the old ways, making room for new patterns to form. And one thing that I wanted to share with you, as we approach February 6th, we'll be feeling some shifting turbulence as Mercury, the planet of communication, begins its retrograde, influencing us to take a different look at things, or, take a look at things from a very different perspective. Mercury's wisdom encourages us to re-examine things we're thinking about, talking about. It says, join me in reviewing where you're at. So February 6th to February 28th is Mercury's retrograde. Your best bet is to spend your time researching what might best support you to achieve your goals. This is truly a time for reshaping your thinking. It provides medicine for the mind, and so that you can make more logical, sound, healthy decisions. And so from our view here on Earth, Mercury will appear to take us backward through the early degrees of dreamy, gentle Pisces at 3 degrees, back into the constellation of intellectual Aquarius by February 12th. So from February 12th through February 28th, Mercury is going to be moving backward, or appear to be moving backward, through the constellation of Aquarius, and we'll find ourselves going back over our dreams, our visions, and maybe even obsessing about them somewhat, and thinking about how can we achieve those dreams, how can we believe in ourselves. And so there'll be a lot of talk about that, a lot of thoughts about that. And from our view here on Earth, Mercury will appear to take us backward, again through the constellation of Aquarius, and its retrograde will provide us with a time to further develop this theme that's been happening since the end of January in our individual lives. And so if you think about what you're experiencing presently within your community, with your friends, with your family community, with your communities that you work with different organizations, whatever is developing right now will be further developed as Mercury does its retrograde and takes us back over some of these areas to pick up pieces that we may have missed the first time around. Very important point about Mercury's retrograde is that right around the 15th, which is very close, right about the time of the full moon, we are going to have this awareness of a turning point, meaning that, Mercury retrograde does cause this sort of confusion in communication, and it can make it a bit frustrating to stay on track. So you'll feel a little bit of a relief around the 15th, sort of like, aha, I get what this time has been about, and feel a little bit more at ease. As the Sun conjoins Mercury up in our universe, you'll have a clearer sense of how you're going to be able to reshape your thoughts and your ideas during this time. So February is truly a great month to explore and create and set in place new paradigms for peace, harmony, and unity. And I would like to show you that chart again of the full moon up on the screen. And there it is. And want to just sort of point out that we are all actively seeking to find fulfillment in our in being independent in our thought processes, but we have these open doors that are provided, as you heard me before talk about, with the peaceful connections that are between the Sun, Mercury, and Mars and the North Node. So what that does is, in any type of relationship, it opens doors for positive connections and very positive communications, and a lot of people helping each other to find answers. So that's very, very nice to see those peaceful connections occurring. And so there'll be a lot of help for each of us through our communities, through our groups, through the friends that we have in our lives. So that will be of great help. And we are continuing on with this, these patterns and these pressures to make important changes in our lives. We still have that cardinal T-square that is occurring up in the universe, and what it's doing is putting pressure on us to continue to move forward. And I want to just tell you that any delays or anything that occurs that slows you down on your path is actually a very, very good thing. And to be present to realize that you're actually being protected in some ways from harm. So when you have these delays, it's important that you pay attention, that you be present for them, because they really are protections against things going too fast and having some really weird, crazy occurrences, which we are also having those as well. We're seeing them all over in the world. Uranus and Aries is awakening us all to that inner sense of things that have angered us in the past. We're being asked to change those, to work through those. And we are seeing these eruptions within different people of anger, So, it's like somebody's come in and is really just shifting everything around, and the challenges are and the pressures are to pick up these pieces and say, how can we work with this? How can we continue to do better? And Jupiter's path through Cancer, which is continuing on for at this time, opposing Pluto and Venus in Capricorn. We continue to have these delays. We continue to have these challenges to, really change the structures of our lives, to look at the status and our individual statuses in different way, to keep what we need and, not overexpand and try to control things to such degrees that that we're having things that we really do not need in our lives, because certainly those things are being sort of taken away. So my real point is that in the month of February, we continue to have this cardinal T-square, and it is promising us that we are still in this process of changing the world that we live in, that we are still in this process of changing on a cellular level, every single one of us, everyone here on Earth. So the month of February does promise that we will achieve some peace, we will achieve some harmony, that there will be some new ideas that will be very important that we incorporate, but it also does remind us by the presence of this full moon on Valentine's Day that it's very important for us to open our hearts, to honor the expressions of the heart, to take time to play, take time to be with your children, take time to have some fun. That's also very important. Leo is all about dignity. It is all about honesty, integrity, and so those things are going to matter very much this month. And also those old patterns that we pay attention to what some of those old patterns are, some of those old fears that are coming up to be addressed and to be healed. And so pretty much, as I said before, the month of February is going to be a turning point, very important month on our path of evolution. So I do want to say thank you for watching Turn to the Stars, and remind you one more time about the February 16th and 23rd shamanic journeying and practices classes that will be at Just Breathe in Derry. And again, thanks for all your continued support. Thanks for watching Turn to the Stars. I'll see you next week.